Today, I was talking to a friend and I was telling her how frustrated I've been. Oh, am I too close to the mic? Sorry. I'm still learning how to use the mic. Um, but as you may or may not know, I'm recovering from lung surgery and naturally, like recovering from anything that is extremely physical, it obviously takes a lot of rest. And so I'm very grateful to be in the phase of my healing from this, that I don't feel physical pain anymore, but I just require a lot of resting. And I'm not going to lie, I've been a little bit antsy. Um, but I'm grateful to be able to rest. Um, but I've been a bit antsy because I really want to create, but I've been like, how do I say this? I'm building this like new neural pathway where, um, like like, wait, hold on. Let me start again. I'm creating this new neural pathway in which I create for me. And this is what my friend was saying to me on the phone. She was saying, why don't you create something that's just for you? And I realized in that moment that I don't know that I know how to do that anymore. And there's a few reasons for this. One of the reasons is because as long as I have been consciously creating art, like we're creating from the moment that we um, take our first breath, but even before that, because we're growing in the womb, um, and our mother is creating us, and then we come out, and then we are creating. Like you create from the minute that you're born. Um, but because we're still developing at that point, um, we're still relying on other people to survive, right? Wow, this is a huge tangent. Um, but I was thinking about how, in my early career, like I started taking photos, um, I want to say in like 2013. And what I would do is that I would just take these photos and then I would post them to Facebook back in the day. And then people would respond. And that was my creative process. And at the time, like, my relationship with social media was different then, although social media has always been addictive. Um, but it also like created connections for me. Like photo has always done that. It's always like created more connections to people until the point for me where it got to be that I was creating too much for other people and not enough for me. And I've even had that reflected back to me by other, oh, I got a spirit thumbs up, by other like fine art professionals, like who have looked at my work and they have seen in me that I'm giving so much to other people. And so over time, this was good for creating connections with people, which is what I loved. But over time, it became more about the dopamine. It became more about the likes. It became more about approval than it was about the actual creative process, which is like a tricky thing to balance. So now I'm trying to create again, and I keep hitting same neural pathway that's like, that I have to create correctly in order to share, because I really do think that sharing is part of my process of creating for myself. For me, it's like an alchemical process that aids in the transformation. And it is something that builds community, and it is very valuable. But it's like a tightrope these days. It's a tightrope. And it's a tightrope that I fell off. I fell. I fell off the tightrope probably in like 2019. At that point, I had been like shooting professionally for a few years, but I had been going so hard, and I had gained popularity in my photography probably around like, I don't know, like 2016, 2017. And as that popularity grew, the tightrope became harder to balance on because I started getting all of this external approval. It shifted from being a community connector to being this huge dopamine hit, and I couldn't handle it, and I fell off the tightrope. I fell off. And all of a sudden, my creative process that I had loved for so long, it started to become painful to me because I was creating for the wrong reasons due to this addictive social media loop that kind of, it surprised me. I'm not going to lie. Like, we all know so much about social media now, but as a millennial, shout out to the millennials, okay? As a millennial who, like, grew up with the very beginnings of the internet, we actually ran the crash course for social media addiction, right? Like, if you're a millennial, you definitely feel me, probably. Yes? Like, we ran the crash course for social media. And we developed with it. And I really saw the effects because I was deep in the addiction to social media before I could even... I got another spirit thumbs up. Fun. Before I could even, like, tread water. Right? I'm using a lot of analogies here. So I was high up on this tightrope trying to balance this idea of, like, community with, and, like, connecting with community through art, and giving too much, and then eventually falling off this tightrope. And I fell hard. Like, I burnt out for years. And in that time, other things happened. In that time, I learned about my other creative gifts. I learned about my psychic gifts. And all of that integrated together is the makeup of me. It is who I am. And without that, I probably wouldn't be my true self. And I'm happy to say that I am my true self now. But that means that I have to make different rules for myself. And I feel fear because I don't want to fall off that tightrope again, because that fall really hurt. That fall was so hard that it eventually led to me having chronic stress that might have led to a health condition that literally like got me in surgery. That's a whole other thing, right? That's like that's me, like, going a lot into the details of my life that I don't feel like going into. So that statement, was only partially accurate. Not that I'm lying to you, but like, My burnout was so intense that eventually the inflammation in my body was so much to the point where um, it created illness within me. So, yeah, like you can only imagine, one can only imagine how deep that neural pathway goes. Um, that it's going to take me some thinking outside of the box, you could say, to get myself back on this creative path where I'm creating for me. And one thing I know about creating for me is that creating for me actually is creating for everybody, too. Everybody who resonates with it. Because when we create and when we share, the people who see and experience our creations can also experience healing from those creations. And now I just have to learn how to not crave the dopamine of approval. Oh, it's tough, but I've worked really hard at that. And so now I'm learning what it means to create just for me, but still to share it, because I'm not going to share it. That's one thing that I've learned through being ill as well, is that I have to let it out of me. If nothing else, creating for me means to create and share so that it is outside of my body, because so often when we create, we are creating from a place of holding all of these things in our body that are trying to get out, and us creating is a way to do that. It's like it's a human thing that has like it's a way of life. It's how we survive on this earth, which is ironic for so many different reasons that I won't go into today. Um, but that's the thing about this creative sovereignty, is that's what it's about. It's about this creative sovereignty where we take back our power and create for ourselves, and know that in creating for ourselves, we are helping others by simply just being.